Nice to see you, Michael. How are you, mate? Oh, sorry, just unmute yourself.
Who, me?
Okay.
G'day,
Okay.
I was talking to Michael. G'day, Michael.
Oh.
Michael.
Hello.
I mean, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, Graham.
Got a few coming in tonight, so we're just letting people in at the moment, and I'll be back in a minute with everyone. So, can you guys see me okay tonight? I've had a few microphone issues in the past. I'm hoping that I'm loud enough.
Loud and clear from my end.
Perfect. I'll just pop you back on mute, mate, while we bring everyone in, and
Okay.
talk again a little bit later, if that's cool.
Sure. No
Cheers.
worries.
There's Ross. Where'd he go? Oh. I should probably mute while I'm doing this because you hear all my key taps. Hey, Ross, you're in. G'day, mate. I just made you a co-host too, mate.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. We're just waiting on Tim and a couple more people to join. We shouldn't be much longer before we can start. Hey, Pen, how are you? Hi, Penny. I'm trying to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself there, Pen? Hi, how are you?
Yeah, evening everyone. Made it. Sorry I'm a bit late.
No, you're right. We've just been bringing people in. We've given them a bit of a rundown, but I'll go over it again in a sec. So, all right, here's Tim.
It's a lovely day today out there, wasn't it, Michael? A lot of people.
Not if you're in Victoria.
Oh, well, I'm lucky at the moment. You know, things can change.
It was a bit cold and windy today.
Yeah, it was very windy, but lots of beautiful people and sunshine, and yeah.
Good to see. Cool.
Yeah, we had a peace rally here and it went really well. We had I put the cops in a box before I left and with my intentions, and we didn't see one, so it worked.
Good. Cool. All right, I'll pop you back on mute for a sec, Pen. We'll bring Tim in. And hi, Tim. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. Very good.
That's good.
We too had a good day in Adelaide today at the rally, and very, very well attended, and some really, really good stuff going on down here. So we had a great day. Long walk, but a great day.
Yeah, there's a lot of walking today. I've heard a lot of people very tired tonight.
Yeah, but you know, it's encouraging. Corinne and I were just talking about the diversity of people that attend the rallies, that attend the marches, and they are ranging everywhere from Christian ministers to the Hare Krishna, from some doctors and lawyers through to the more free-spirited people with their expression of dreadlocks and multicolored clothing and everything else. And everybody is walking in the same direction for the same reason. It is just a powerful thing.
That's awesome. That's great. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye because we're expecting, we're hoping Owen Torrens can come in tonight. Torrens can come in tonight to his one of the tribal elders I've been speaking with, and obviously, yeah, with everything that's been going on lately, we'd like to sort of have them here so that you guys can see that that we've got a bit of credibility behind what we've been saying too. So, but they do have some bandwidth issues where they are, so that's all good. Welcome everyone. We're still letting people in, but we'll basically start at this point. So, as Magic mentioned earlier, if you could all just keep yourselves on mute until until later on. The first half, Tim, myself and the other steering team members will give you a bit of a rundown on what's been going on and where we're at. And we'll do a second half of the meeting where it's question and answer time. So, basically, big week. As you all know, I'm sure you're aware, the QMS is now operational. You can download the app from our website. The first 3 stages currently reside on the website, with the final stage being in the blockchain app. If you go to the website, you can find how to use in the menu, you'll find how to use the QMS so that you can actually propose policy in it now. And it can go through the first 3 stages. The final stage, of course, being going into the blockchain for the referendum style voting. It's a good chance to test the system and make sure it works now and see if we can find any gaps or flaws in it. For those that aren't aware, the QMS is a system for designing and developing policy, and obviously for voting on that policy. It's the final stage, the vote. Of course, at the moment, until we have a referendum, people's initiated referendum, it can't be the legal system of governance within the country at the moment. However, with the endorsements that we've received recently from the tribal nations of Australia, they have said that we are the first lawful system of governance that they would promote within the country and that they wish to be part of. So that in itself is quite a big statement, I realise. But that's what we've been told, and we'll be getting quite a few things happening around that shortly. For instance, everyone here is sovereign. You're born with sovereignty, but you accede your sovereignty by giving your will away, essentially. So what we're hoping people will do is take their will away from the Westminster system and put it into the QMS. And when that occurs, we can hold a referendum in the country, and this could become the system of management for our country. And based on the discussions we've had with the tribal elders, that is their preferred system of governance. Now, I see Michael O'Neill's in here tonight, and I appreciate him coming in. I've been talking to Michael a bit lately. He's probably the only politician I'd ever actually trust myself. Most people here probably have a fair idea about where I stand with politics and politicians. But I've been speaking to Michael, and I recognise a heart-based person when I meet them, and that to me is a good person. So I'm happy to see you in, Michael, and thank you for joining us. But yeah, hopefully soon, if we're successful, come and work with us. We'll give you a job, because if we can take the jobs away from these other crooked bastards, we'd love to have people like you working with us, helping develop these systems that need to go in place. So the QMS, as I say, it's a 4-stage voting tool. You can propose a policy within the system. Once it reaches 1,000 votes or 1,000 likes, or 1,000 people want the same particular policy, it'll go into our news feed. Once it's in the news feed and it hits 10,000 people wanting that particular policy, we will then get experts in. They'll have to be vetted to make sure that they're people that are of integrity and not necessarily put in by people who wouldn't necessarily have the best interest for the country at heart, and that they're not going to make any financial gain from it, because it's a volunteer position. Those guys, their job, or ladies, women, the people involved in that will be basically designing and developing the policy. So they would have to test and measure every aspect of it, compare it to the Constitution, make sure that it is lawful to bring in, and show us how it's going to affect all other policy that may exist. They've got to make sure that what they're presenting is honest and upfront. And basically, it's all got to be done in the public view. So total transparency in governance, it's total transparency in the way our policies are designed and presented. And then once it's gone through that process and it's been put back to the public for review, if everyone's still happy with it at that stage, it'll proceed to the blockchain app. And then once it goes into the blockchain app, referendum votes would be held on it. Now, the system is designed so it can work from a local issue through to a pretty much a global issue, but you obviously it'd be working at a national level for national issues or state, whatever it may be. It's flexible enough to handle anything like that. The numbers and figures do adjust based on, we've got percentages for the Shire, even for tribal level. We've got percentages for state, and we use the 10,000 number at the moment for national, and primarily because that's what it normally takes to get something into Parliament. So as things go, those numbers may adjust, but they're the numbers we've sort of settled on for the time being. So once it goes into the app, 51% of people must want it to be a policy for it to become a policy. And once this is considered the system of governance, that policy would then go to the necessary public service for implementation. As I've always said, the military would hold a little bit of independence. They'd have to operate within the Constitution. Things that would be voted on there would be, I don't think our military should ever be sent to invade another country. So maybe we write that into our Constitution. I don't know. That's for people with more knowledge about these things than I have. What I've created here is a system where we can have a voting platform and have transparency. When I say I, that's me and the people around me that have been working with me, and I've got some wonderful people that have been working with me. But what we've created is a system that is purely for developing policy on. We're not a political party. We have no interest in running the country. We have no interest in telling people how to live their lives or do anything. We think that people should be able to make those decisions themselves. But if we're all going to have a law system and systems within the public service, so i.e. health system, the education system, we the people should really be designing our own, not letting it up to a small group of people to tell us how we need them to be. And that's where I sort of stand on all of this. So I'm going to pass across to Tim now and let Tim sort of talk a little bit about what's been going on and what we've been working on and how some of his experience with it, if you don't mind, mate. So I put you on the spot again as usual. But I'll get Tim to sort of take over for a bit so you don't have to just all hear me talking for the next 10 minutes. Anyway, thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks, everybody, for being on. Look, there is so much going on at the moment. It is a little difficult to get your head around what Graham, and truly, it's probably Graham and Penny that have really been pouring their heart into this at 100 mile an hour, and Magic and a few others. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be here, and I'm actually in awe that through what Graham and the guys have done, to be able to bring the elders of almost the entire Indigenous people of this country together into this system in a way whereby we can all work cohesively together, possibly for the first time in the history of white settlement in this place. That's never been done before. You've got to understand, you are a part of an organization, a structure, if you will, that has the capacity to unite all of Australia and to give the voice to all of Australia. And like Graham said, it's not a voice that's given to a handful of dubious people to control the will of the nation. The will of the nation is for you, for all of us. And so in all of this, there's been a lot of things going on, as you all well know, in all the states and territories that could not be considered lawful or legal or justifiable or humane or anything else in any stretch of the imagination of any decent thinking person. The beautiful part about what the QMS has the capacity to do is to alleviate all of that burden out of the nation. We have to understand that as we sit here tonight, and some of us have been to the marches today, some haven't. As we sit here tonight, coming from all our different perspectives, where we actually stand is literally at the precipice of going over the edge of the cliff. Now, some people go, well, that could be good or bad. Well, it could be. If we go over the cliff, depending on your view of the cliff, if we're pushed over the cliff by tyranny, it's a bad thing. If we climb down the cliff to a better playing field, it's a good thing. And I believe there's certain things in play in this country that will literally scare the socks off us as we go through. But using the knowledge that we all have, we can come out the other side of it with the QMS as the system of governance, not government. You've got to listen to the words. We should never, ever, ever fall back into the place of where we've just come from. We don't want, I personally do not want to go back to where we've come from. Because to go back to where we come from means we're going to have to come to this place again. You see, there is not, and with a few exceptions, there's very few people in the political system that could ever guide us out of the muck hole that they've put us into. Because if they could, or it was in their intention or within their heart to do it, it would have already been done. So therefore, we have to understand that you can't fix a broken system. You must reinvent a new system that replaces the old system and brings forward a whole new concept. Now, that's scary because all we've ever known is what was. What we currently know is what is. And we know that what is horrendous. We know that what was is what brought us here. But because we are here, what we now have with several different things going on, but with the QMS available to us. Now, it's only available. If we don't use it, what is the use of having it? If you have a magnificent Ferrari sitting in your driveway, but and you've got the keys, but you've got no idea how to drive, why have a Ferrari? Right? We have the ability, we have the access to this, but if we do not use this, I think we'll just collapse into the abyss, to be quite frank. The people have a voice. They have a tool now with the QMS. And please do not underestimate the importance, the value, and the absolute incredible unity that the Indigenous people bring into this organization. Because we have to understand there's a lot of legalities here, but they own the land. They own the land. The thing we call Australia. What we call Australia, they have many names for, because there's, and none of it says Australia. We have a way to bring people together. The political landscape that's going on out there at the moment is getting confusing. The judicial system is becoming laughable. The churches, unfortunately, have basically all but packed up and gone home, and left their people to stumble around in the dark, in the wilderness, if you would. You and I, within the QMS, using this as a tool, you and I have the opportunity to show people a way whereby if they choose to use the tool, the app, that app that you've got on your phones right now, you do not understand the power that that actually gives you. What Graham has done in securing that app blows my mind. It blows my mind. So therefore, we have the ability to bring people. If we do not bring people, then we might as well not have the app. We might as well not have the QMS, because if we don't move forward, we are actually moving backwards. Right? If you're not moving forward, you're not standing still, you're actually going backwards. And it's difficult. But like, I bumped into a young man the other day and he said, well, I don't have a real problem with the one world government and the cashless society and all of that. He said, because I've got no intentions of ever breaking a law or any of this sort of stuff. And I said, well, that's great. I said, I notice you've got an accent. Where do you come from? And he said, oh, well, he said, I'm English. And I said, well, what happens one day if all of a sudden somebody in the place of power says, all the people who were born in England that are currently in Australia, we don't like you. We're going to lock you all up in a big corral and put you in slave labor camps. He said, oh, that'll never happen. And I told him the story of my Jewish friends in Melbourne. And I said, his father said that the world would never let Hitler do that to the Jews. I said, but it did. You and I, we don't know exactly where we stand in history today. We know we stand in a place where we don't want to be. We know that the world has gone to hell in a handbag in such a way. We know through history what could happen. We know that it's only ever been a handful of solid, heartfelt, dedicated, righteous people that have ever stood in the breach to stop tyranny. And I can tell you, I've read Klaus Schwab's documents, and the one thing that they're terrified of in developing the New World Order program is a nation that is full of pride, national pride, political popularism. You know, years ago, I stood with not Ricardo, that's today. I stood with Fraser Anning. And Fraser Anning here in Australia had more social media hits per head of population than what the Trump organization got. That's how popular Fraser was. Today, there's another guy here in Australia that has the ability to lead from a political perspective, and that's Ricardo, right? I don't know whether any of you know Ricardo Bosi, but I would hitch my wagon with Ricardo any day of the week. And the bottom end of the day, we need leadership, but we need to give that leadership a system that they can use that's devoid of the corruption that's already in place. So there has been history made here. Thank you to Graham Turner. Thank you to Penny. Thank you to Magic. Thank you to all who have been in the team. Michelle, thank you, right? Thank you to everybody. And there's a lot of you who are here, but you do a lot of work and you put a lot of energy in behind the scenes. History has been made. Nobody else has ever done this. Nobody else has ever united the people of this country the way the QMS has, the way the team has. And it is an absolute honor and a pleasure. And I really, really look forward to what comes in the next few weeks. I think we are going to see some amazing things happen, whichever way it goes. My advice to everybody is if you are dismayed by what you see come at you, you may be shaking at the knees, but stand anyway. You may be asked to speak and your voice will tremble. Speak anyway. Why? Because we have a future coming at us that is so beautiful and so magnificent that it is difficult to comprehend because we've never seen it. We've only ever dreamt of it. We dream of these things. And we have to go through the furnace of fire to be able to bring the metal out in the people, the strength within the people that can bring forth the new, better, peaceful Australia. and I will say this, and I'll say it loud and clear. It is through the vision and the concept and the work and the sweat and the blood and the tears of Graham Turner. Thank you, Graham. Back to you.
Thanks, Tim. Well, thank you. Well, appreciate it, mate. Yeah, look, there's been a lot of work and it's been hard, but we're there. And I couldn't have got through it without Tim, without Penny, Michelle, Magic, Ross Anthony, and all of the amazing people that have been around helping and supporting and building what we're doing. I mean, Penny's been wonderful in networking and bringing people to the QMS. She's brought the right people at the right time. It's just, the whole thing has been amazing. Michelle's been a friend of mine for a long time, as is Magic. And I mean, yeah, really special people. Penny brought Ross to us. Ross brought the app to us. Everything fell into place in the right time for the right reasons. Because that's what we were manifesting. We were trying to manifest something for the people. We wanted to build a system of the people, for the people, and by the people. So what we need now is the people to come to it and to engage and to be part of it. At the very least, at the moment, what we can do is test the system. We can also show people that there is an option, there is an alternative. And we can also show the discrepancies between what our political leaders are giving us at the moment to what we want. And I think that's important at the moment too. At the very, very least, what we've been able to build is a way to have some hope for a better future and a better day. And that's what I want. I want my son to live in an Australia. I don't care what happens to me. What I have been tasked to do is, it's not fully done. There's other things I want to do in my life, but this is probably the biggest thing I've felt that I've had to achieve in my life. And we've got it to version 1.0. So from that perspective, I'm pretty proud of what I've achieved too. Thanks, Tim. But I couldn't have done it without the support and help of the people that have been behind me. And look, to have a great idea and bring it forward, that's one thing, but to actually see it come through and actually have a working version of it up and running, that's just totally another thing altogether. So it's been a really humbling experience for me, and without the people I've had, and I believe I'm guided by the Creator in this too, we would not have got there. So again, thanks to the Creator also, because I shouldn't leave our Creator out. But look, at the end of the day, we will always have leaders in society. There will be people who step up into roles for the betterment of man. And to me, a leader is someone that we choose to follow, not somebody that makes us follow, because otherwise we're breaking a rule. We get a fine, or we get a gun pointed at us, or we go to jail. That is not leadership. Leadership is a man who sets a path, or a woman who sets a path, strikes out on that path in the best interest of their people, and walks down it. That to me is, and we've got some examples in here tonight. I mean, Michael O'Neill's here. We've got Tim Dwyer. We've got Penny. We've got Magic. We've got Michelle Ross. Matt Lawson's another one that, these people are all leaders. I think I saw, I'm not sure if Rick Bosey's in, but I actually saw Ricardo De Boss earlier on, and I'm not sure if that's Rick or not. If it is Rick, pop in and say hi at some stage. Yeah, look, there's many great people out there. As I say, I've never been able to align with politics. A politician is like you look at the word politician. What's a beautician? A beautician creates and sells beauty. A politician creates and sells policy. Our public service does the bulk of the work. They're actually making it happen. What we need to do is have a system where the people can feed the information up, vote on it, decide on it, and send it back down to the necessary public service to actually enact it. And that's how I believe that we could run this society quite cleanly without. Look, one thing I've always said is money, a perception of power, and people mixed is not a good thing, because you're going to get corruption every single time. And politicians, they go into these things, and I'm sure many of them enter with the best of interest, but best of intentions, I should say. But what happens is that when they're in there, they get tricked. You know, look what happened to Peter Garrett, Pauline Hanson, people like that, people who were good people that went in there with the right values, with the right ideals. They get tricked, they get scammed, and all of a sudden they're on the back end, or they're blackmailable and they're controllable. So when we've got a system that's run on money, as ours currently is, to me, it's always going to be corrupt. When there's money involved, when there's a position of power involved, it'll be corrupt. The QMS removes money and power from policy decisions, and that's why we've built it the way we have, and what I believe needs to happen. Now, I also believe if we can make this run here as the preferred system of governance, I think you'd see all Western democracies turn to it pretty quickly, and I think communist countries and others would want it as well. At that stage, obviously, we might have to help some countries free themselves, but look, combined and unified, this world could be a beautiful place. Now, the QMS, as I say, it can go to every country, but it's not ever going to be a totally global system, because each country should maintain its own membership base, and it should look after its people. So I don't want a global system. I don't want a global currency. I know we've already essentially got one in the US dollar, but we don't need it. What we need is people-based, heart-based society. And we can do that through a system such as the QMS. There's always going to be bad people around. There's always going to be people that try to, do the wrong thing. But again, we can address that in policy where it's heart-based. And if we created all our rules and laws for our country in common language, so they weren't written in legalese to confuse and keep lawyers rich, then imagine the society we could create. And if we didn't have to spend the money on having a parliament and all the buildings and all the staff and all that sort of thing, imagine how much money could be pumped back into our health system and our education system and our aged care and the systems that really count for the people of Australia. So that's where my vision is. I'd love to see that happen. And that could go global. And this system is available globally too. So we've spoken to people in New Zealand. We've got people in America and the UK that have been interested in the system. And I do have versions of it set up, ready to roll for them as well. We've just got to set up domain names and get somebody that's prepared to take on the responsibility of they're going to have to bring in the right people and get it moving within their own country. Where we're at the moment with the QMS is that we need to really think about this public initiated or people's initiated referendum. Because if we can get that going, and in order to do that, as I've mentioned, we need to do some fundraising. But if we can make that happen, we can put the country fully back in the hands of the people, and we can have decent people, leaders in particular policies or particular areas coming forth and developing what they need. Health policy could be developed by leaders who are presenting it forward to the people who know what they're doing. People could have an education policy and people who know what they're doing could put them in. As I say, I'm not a politician. I don't know everything about everything at all. I know a little about lots of different things, but I knew enough to get this started, and by the grace of God, it's here. So I'm going to hand on to Penny now, because Penny's been really good. So I'll ask you to unmute yourself too, please, Penny. And I just want you to come in and have a quick talk about what you've been doing with the QMS. And if you'd like to tell people what you did today, that'd be wonderful. Penny Johnson, thank you.
So, well, today I'm in Port Macquarie, New South Wales, and it's good to have a steer team that's actually spread around the nation, including the Indigenous that we've just locked in, which is amazing. We had the peace rally here, and it actually went really, really well. We had a meditation beforehand, and it was very calm and positive. And I actually did a little video around the crowd when we sat in Town Green with our social distancing. I did a little video and I asked the question, do you trust your government? And, people were happy to talk. So, don't be scared to get out there and ask those questions, because people are ready to talk. And after what we've just seen in Supreme Court, with evidence that what we are being asked to take, this poison, as not safe, not tested, not tested for children, not tested for pregnant women, and it's still to be dismissed, is absolutely disgusting. And for us not to have a voice, in that area of, you know, manipulation is a disgrace. And so this system is going to help us fix this problem. We have a voice, we have a referendum, we have the system to get this country back together, to have a choice and have your voice finally, you know, to not let this ever happen again. It cannot happen again. It's just, you know, what future are we giving our children? If we can come and show them what we've got here, they'll get it. They will understand it probably better than we can. To give them something where they have their voice for the future is that they are way ahead of us sometimes right now. So, you know, that's what I'm interested in changing the health system, to introduce more holistics, natural therapies, nutrition, so that we have less dis-ease, because the viruses are from dis-ease. Disease doesn't exist unless the body is, if the body is correctly looked after and educated that way, we won't have so much illness and cancers and everything that's going on. And we know these people in this group here, we know that that's been forced on our health. That's why we're not a wealthy nation as far as our health, because they are poisoning our food, they're poisoning our water. And that's where I come from. That's where I first woke up was I'm a nutritionist. I studied the things they're putting in our food and water, and, you know, it needs to stop. So, you know, if you are interested in making a change in that area, volunteer. We've got groups, we've got the health, education, there's many categories there, just voluntary group that you don't know yet what you want to do, just put your name in the groups, put your hand up. It's time to make a change. It's time to bring your friends in and introduce them to something that works. And yeah, I'm excited, Graham. I'm really happy that we've got the voting system up, it's launched. We've got the First Nation people in. I would like you to maybe explain a little bit more, and I did ask you on the phone today, what does the sovereignty certification give us as Australians? What protection does it actually give us?
Okay, so sovereignty in itself is a God-given right. You're born with it, but you cede it away through giving your will to things, or through what they call implied acceptance. Basically, if you don't know about something and you are, you know, meant to say yes or no, and you don't say no, you can give your acceptance within this system without, you know, without really knowing what you've given acceptance to. So look, everything operates on the will of the people. The government only exists because we put our will to it. If we vote in this system, if we elect people into positions of power, then they hold positions of power over us because we've granted them that. And at the end of the day, do you want people telling you how to live and what to do? I certainly don't. I want to be able to live free. I want to be able to make my own decisions. Nobody tells me what clothes to wear each day and what food to eat or what to stick in my body. They're my choices. So why do obviously you need some rules in society. You don't want people doing 200 kilometers an hour down a back street or anything ridiculous like that. And you don't want rapists or murderers or pedophiles or anything like that. So you've got to have rules to prevent those types of people and those types of things from occurring. But what causes war? It's not the people of a country that cause war. It's arguments between countries, usually caused by politicians that create wars. It's money that causes wars, right? Which again, people are arguing over at a political level. You know, we the people can decide much better. We're heart-based people, and most people are, well, were at least till I started getting the jab. That's changed a little bit since recently. But anyway, without going into all of that, which is hard enough for many of us to accept, including myself, I mean, why can't the people do the job themselves? Instead of giving our will to somebody else to represent us, why can't we self-represent through a direct democracy? Which is essentially, I know democracy is not a popular word these days, but in the past, democracy has been the best option of all of the systems of governance. It's only when it becomes a two-party system, when it's controlled, and when the people don't really have a voice, when they can't go to their local MP and raise an issue all the way up to the federal parliament, it's failed. And I mean, everyone here, I'm sure it's well, not everyone, but many people here have probably tried to go to their local member of parliament and have something heard, seen something in society that's not right. And if it's anything like my experience, I'm pretty sure that you wasted your time. I'm not, and please don't take offensive at all, Michael or Rick, because I know if Rick is in here, because I know you guys do try to help the people that come to you. I've actually spoken to both of those gentlemen personally, and I do think they're stand-up gentlemen. So I've got no issues, and I do believe that they're fighting the best fight they know how for us. But it's like going into court at the moment. It's a corrupt system. What chance have you got? What chance have you got within a corrupt system to overcome corruption? We needed something new. And I believe this is our best way forward. I believe that giving the people their voice and letting them to determine the policy and bring it forth, add weight to it, test and measure it so it's all transparent, because that's another thing we lack within the current system. There's no transparency in how things are done. You're given a party to vote on, a handful of policies, some you may not even align with, and that you've got to take your best option. Look, you won't always get your way in the QMS because you might not want a particular policy going through that goes through. But when it's in the will of the people and 51% or more of the people want something, then it's probably the right way to go. So it's, and I mean, I'm not saying that about the jab at the moment. Please don't take that as being the way to go, because I think that's through a corruption of the media. But if the media aren't getting paid to present things certain ways, if the media aren't controlled in the way that they're currently controlled, and they have to tell the truth because everything's checkable, then we create an honest media as well. So it's about bringing integrity back into the management of our country. And I mean, at the moment, you're all here because I don't think many of you would trust the current system or the government. And I know I certainly don't. And I never have. But we need something better. We can't have nothing. And so that's what I wanted to show people, that there is an alternative. There is an option. And I mean, even if other people came up with better options down the track or present better options, then I'm open to that. Absolutely. But what we need is a better way of doing things. And this is version 1.0 of the QMS is now operating. It will work on the will of the people, but it does need engagement. It needs people to get involved, start proposing ideas and policies in there, start testing the system out for us, and let people see how it works. Because as people come to it and they can test it and they can use it, then away we go. We've got what we need. Now, I saw Matt Lawson creep in there before. Did you want to unmute, Matt, and come in and say hi and give a bit of, because you've been across this since we started. So if you could unmute, mate, I'd love to hear from you. Also,
yeah,
Matt,
no worries.
I am too. He's much better speaker than I am.
Not at all. You're doing an amazing thing, Graham, and congratulations on getting the app up and running. I think that's an amazing thing. I won't stay chatting for too long. I've kind of actually in the last week, I've taken a bit of time off social media. I think everyone should look at taking some time off social media. We talk about getting away from mainstream media because of how much it affects us and how much propaganda we take on board. You just got to be a little bit careful with your screen time with social media as well. I think all of us in the last 18 months to the last 2 years have been, you know, taking it in eagerly and using social media as a platform, but we need to be a bit careful that we don't let our mental health or our personal life slip when we're doing that. I have, been around QMS for quite a while now. I've seen what Graham and the guys have been doing. And I think that the most important thing that we all need to remember is that this is new, that we're looking to go outside that two-party preferred system. We all know, looking at it, that there's corruption. We know that they're covering up sexual scandals. They're covering up all kinds of things that really the public should be made aware of when it comes to branch sacking in Victoria or, ScoMo being aware of sexual abuse within the federal parliament. I think what happens a lot of the time is you do have very honest, humble, great people move into politics, but there tends to be a way for the system to gobble people up and spit them out the other side. And I think that what we're seeing here within this system is there's no real opposition. And while we know we've got warriors out there like Michael, who's here tonight, Michael O'Brien, and We've got Ricardo, whether people like him or not, it depends. Some do, some don't. And that's sometimes a good thing. UAP, we've got all these different groups that have all these fantastic principles and ideas that they're coming into place with. I think the biggest problem we have at the moment, though, is that the system is corrupt and there is a lot of money that's going from people's hands and disappearing. So without it being transparent and open, as we see when we put in freedom of informations and that kind of thing, we can't really work within a system. I think it's going to be very hard, very difficult to fix the system from within it. And I know that people that are trying to do that are warriors. They're actually warriors, the ones that are getting into the system. I'm being asked daily to jump into the system now with different parties. And I'm sort of like, well, I don't know that it can be fixed from within. The idea of QMS and what I love about it is that it takes the power and gives it back to the people. Now, the biggest problem, not just in Australia, but around the world, is that people have forgotten their true power as sovereign human beings. And you only have to look as far as our First Nation people here in Australia. And the law that they live under is the law of the land, LORE. And they live a harmonious life to an extent, like as much as they can within the confinements of the restrictions we put in place on their lives. They live a really great life with their tribal law. And we, with a system like the QMS, we're actually looking at our constitution, the constitution which brings back the law of the land, which then puts the power back into the hands of the people. The people have the power. We run through a referendum-based system, and I love simplifying it for people. And what I've done in the last week in the background, which I haven't actually told Graham about, but I've put together a little flyer that talks about, are you currently in a bad relationship with your government? And then it goes through the different pointers. Are you being told to stay at home? Are you being told who you can speak to? Are you being told where you can spend your money? Are you being told when you can open your business? And I've put that out. I've done letterbox flyer drops of about 8,000 flyers. And we're just building a website right now with some really basic information for newbies who come on board. And we're going to have the QMS platform on that website. So we say to people, if you're sick of this system, if you're sick of this abusive relationship, now's the time where you can break that relationship and take back your power. Now, what I think happens out there in Australia's public is a lot of people give their power to the government and they let decisions be made for themselves, whether it's on their health. With a lot of people losing jobs, they're now in the Centrelink system. There's a lot of people that are waiting for handouts, waiting for decisions to be made. And what I think is going to actually happen is, as we head into the vaccine passports, I think that's where we're going to get another big awakening happening, because people are going to be thinking, here I am on my green tick, and then within 4 or 5 months, they're going to go to a red cross. And they're going to be shocked because they think they've got their way out of this dilemma by getting jabbed. With the vaccine passports, of course, that's all coming towards a social type credit system where anything you do wrong gets you a red cross and you drop in and out of the system continuously. I'd hate to think, I think my social credit score would be about a negative 1,000 at the moment, but I think what we got to look at is, if we can have these conversations, we need to find common ground. And the beauty of this country and what we've been built on is hard work and freedoms. And our freedoms have been taken away. And what they've done is they've put a poll drive like right in the middle of everyone. They've put this division, this block of division, and we even saw in Brisbane today, there was a protest group for the vaccines and there was a protest group against the vaccines. You know what? The whole protest should be about freedom of choice. And if you had a protest where people actually understood what vaccine passports were about, every single person would stand on the same side of this, because we as a country are losing everything that's great about us. And I see that, as I say, there's amazing people fighting in the system right now trying to change it. But I truly think if we get those people, if we get the Michael O'Briens and we get the UAPs and other people to have a great look at QMS and say, actually, this could work. If we can bring the power back to the people and we can get our members looking at this and saying, you want to change? Here's what do you want, Michael O'Brien? You've got some policies. We want to stop medical apartheid or whatever it is. If we get 10,000 people to put it into the system and then it says, yes, this has got enough people behind it, and we throw the vote out to everyone and the referendum works out, yep, we're not going to force people to get mandated vaccines anymore. Bang, it's done. It's through the system. And everything keeps on moving along. it really takes the guesswork out of things. It takes away the fact that you're doing things blindly. It makes it a transparent system. And I really think at the moment, there's nothing like it out there, but this is really taking what Wayne Glue and those guys do. There's a lot of people that have been fighting for 10, 15, 20, 30 years to say, what about our constitution? What about the power of the people? We still need, of course, the public servants. Our public servants run our country, and I have nothing against our public servants. I actually think that they are the backbone to our country, but we really need a better system. And yeah, as I say, this flyer is going out right now, and I love what Penny did today, asking people if they trust the government. That's pretty much what this flyer is doing as well. And I think there's about 30 different angles we can come at for this, but really the proof's going to be in the pudding once people sign up to the what's it called, to the app, and then from there we can move forwards. And I think everyone should be having the conversations, and I think now's the time to really get this going as much as possible. And again, Graham and Penny and the rest of the guys in the main team, you guys are doing an amazing job, so yeah, keep it up.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it, mate. And look, Matt, he's far more eloquent than I, as I said, and I love the way he puts these things. And yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to put the will of the people on a platform where they actually have a voice, where they can actually, bring forth their own ideas. Look, we've got, I think it's about 18 million voting age people here at the moment. That's 18 million different voices that may have a better idea than some of the ones that are coming out of the very small percentage of people that are actually supposedly running the country at the moment. So who's had a great idea here and tried to get it up somewhere and not been able to because they didn't have the money, they didn't have the pull, they didn't have, whatever it took to get it there. If you put it into a system like the QMS and it's something that's going to benefit the country, then of course people are going to follow it. People are going to listen to it. They're going to look at it. And I mean, other people might come up with better ideas. It's not about being precious. It's not about having an ego over it. It's about we find the best way of doing things. And that's what we all need to do within this. If we can put all our ideas in there and then let the people en masse decide, but educate everyone, because that's another area. Democracy would work great if we were all fully educated and if we were taught what everything meant and it was transparent. But in a two-party system, it can't work ever, especially when those people are trading votes and money and all the rest of it. Let's give it all back to the people. Let's keep the country. I mean, the country doesn't have to go into a state of anarchy and chaos just because it doesn't have a government. When governments change over, who do you think's running the country? It's the public service. So if we're feeding the policies directly from the people to them, it's the same thing, except it's a massive cost saving for the whole country. Plus, it negates the ability to bring the corruption into it. So that's where I'm coming from. That's the way I see things, and that's why we present the platform the way we have and why we've built it the way we have. Now, I'm not sure if Magic wants to come on screen and say a few words, but she's been instrumental in helping a lot of things in this as well. So do you want to unmute Magic and say a couple of things?
Thanks, Graham. First of all, thank you everyone for your great Zoom etiquette tonight. We've had a few hiccups along the way, but thanks for tonight. Okay, so me, mum of two, I'm a health practitioner, you can probably see behind me. I've had kids on the spectrum the whole time, and I've seen how the government shuffles people that are different and just says that you're not worth it. And now they're doing that to a lot of us. I've lost a job. I've lost volunteering because apparently I'm not worth it because I didn't put something in my arm. It's time we stand up to the government. I don't trust them. I know you guys don't trust them or you wouldn't be here. So what we really need to do is say to everyone that we know that bitches and complains about Dan Andrews or I don't know who's in everywhere else, whoever it is, or ScoMo, they bitch and complain about them, but what are you going to do? Do you trust them? Do you put your life in their hands? Because guess what? They're not jabbed, those politicians, and they're not losing a cent. They're on minimum $500,000 a year. They give themselves pay rises while we're in lockdowns. People are starving. People are dying, hundreds by the day. There's people committing suicide, people giving in and getting the jab because they feel they've got no choice. They're losing. The politicians are not losing anything. So please speak to everyone that you know. And if you ask them that question, do you trust the government? And they say no, put them on the QMS. I've put it in the chat a few times. I'll put it up there again. But please, we really need people on board. 18 million voters in Australia. Like, even if we got 8 million, what a message that would be. So what we've got 65 on here tonight. Great. Let's all bring people to the QMS. That's it from me.
Thanks, Magic. Appreciate it again. Okay, so what we might do now is start to open the floor up to anybody who has any questions. So if there's a reactions button down the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, if you put your hand up in the reactions button, we'll bring you in to ask a question. If you don't feel like coming on camera or talking directly to us, send your question through to Penny, Magic or Michelle in the chat, and they will either raise it for you or we'll try to answer it within the chat itself. So do we have anyone that would like to start? Any questions? Would you like to say anything at all, Michael? I'd love to hear from you, Michael O'Neill, if that's okay.
Oh,
G'day, mate. How are you?
hi, Graham. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm actually here tonight as a listener. I'm very interested to gather information and hear what everyone has to say, because I'm actually a learner in this experience, and I wanted to get the information to be able to take back to my people as well. I have, they will, listen to what I have to say. I feel that if I could say anything, if you could get something, even in a written form, in an A5 little flyer, something that was very concise and just a few points, not overburdened, that presents this, because the general public, they need things simple. They actually, and if it's presented very well in a simple format, and I've listened to a little bit, this is all felt relatively new to me in the last, in weeks. And sometimes I get a bit of an information overburden, and I feel that I can listen to a lot of things. But yeah, that's my only point. But tonight I'm here to listen. I want to learn. So I'll keep quiet and let you guys do all the talking.
Thanks, mate. It's an honour to see you in here. So thank you. And look, we don't mind sharing information with anyone. That's what we're all about. Open.
Yeah. No, I do like the concept. I mean, citizens-initiated referendums are a fantastic idea. I think that, and you've brought you've got that. You've got more to the table. People will always be involved, I feel, at all levels of government. And if there is a vacuum in that place, then good or bad people may try and take that vacuum and bring us back around to where we were. So it's very easy to think of myself and, to be presumptuous and think, oh yes, no, we'll be the good politician. But honestly, I'm staggered at sometimes at the compromise that people do once they're in politics over things that I thought they never would move in there. And I certainly had hope. I don't need the money, and I don't even need to be in politics at my age. But we're certainly willing to go and step up to the mark and try and make a difference in Australia, because we are on a terrible trajectory at the moment. And everything that we valued, it's good about Australia, the fair go, she'll be everything, the land of the free, the young and free, it's all disappearing. We're just becoming tired, angry, selfish, manipulated people. And I lay it pretty much at the media. The politicians are subservient to good media coverage. They're not thinkers. They're just terrified of their own personal space and getting that taken away from them. So yeah, this sounds good. Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Penny. And Penny, it was great to see you today. We had a great day at Port Macquarie. I thought it was a really nice day there. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
And Matt and Magic. And Matt, if he's still there, yes, it was good to see him again. I haven't seen him for a while.
Thanks. And look, we could do with people like you working on the system and helping us develop it, to be quite honest, and helping us develop the processes and things like that flow through. You obviously know how things at that level work better than we do, or I do. And this is what the QMS is about. It's about bringing the right people together to do the right job. You know, you don't just give a job to anybody. It should be the right person. And if somebody does the wrong thing in a job, and yeah, I'm talking about politicians in this case, we have the right to sack them and not pay them. That's how you handle your business when you're doing business. If you get a tradesman and he totally screws everything up, what are you going to do? You're not going to pay him. You're going to put the money to another tradesman to come and fix it and fix whatever damage he's done. And I myself am a tradesman, so I know what that's like. We can't do that with our politicians. Once we're there, we're stuck with them, right? So in a system like the QMS, if a person was in a role and if they weren't fulfilling that role, people are going to raise it in there. And once enough people want them out, gone, out. That's simple. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep it simple, clear, and transparent. So, and that's why I presented the development of this system all the way. That's why I've invited the Australian public to be involved as much as possible. And the only thing I've held tight to is the concept, making sure that we bring it to where it needs to be without corruption and without things creeping into it. And at the time we can create a public service and that this is voted in under referendum as the preferred system of governance, I'll sign it straight over to the public service and to the people of Australia. It's not about ownership for me, and I don't want money for it, right? All I want is my country free, my son to grow up in a country where I can trust a system that will take care of his needs. So, David, would you like to unmute yourself there, please, mate? I see you've had your hand up for a little while. We've spoken on the phone, haven't we, mate? How are you?
Graham, love your work and everyone here showing up. I really appreciate this great opportunity. It's an honourable, noble task for us to be against the inertia of what we're facing, to be here together on this fantastic opportunity. And in regards to that, I'm glad to hear about this app. However, I'm a member, but I can't find anything about it on the website. And I've looked also on the Play Store. Ross has told me it's called the Democracy app, but I can't find it on the Play Store. So I just wanted to raise that as an issue. That,
okay, well, it should be.
I think this tool needs to be very prominent and accessible. So,
of course.
Yeah, thank you.
No, you're right, mate. We do have a download button on the menu on the website now where you can download it from. And there's a how to use the QMS button on there as well. So it'll actually walk you through the steps, and there's a button on each step that will take you off to the necessary part of the website so that you can see how the process goes through. I have tried to simplify it as much as possible because, of course, when I tried to first present it, you put everything down that you think's got to go in there, and I have a tendency to over-explain things, and it's been thinned down a little bit now so that we can get a bit better. But I've tried to work on the user side of it to make it an easier experience to deal with. I'm hoping that now that we've got version 1.0 up and running, that we can find the right people to come forward and help us with the development of the rest of it, so we can make it a much more user-friendly type experience. But if you, I know I built the website, but I've had that much going on, I can't think of which tag it's under on the menu. But if you have a look through the menu on the website at www.theqms.org, have a look around in there. You'll find it. It's downloads for the app, for the Democracy app, and the stages are in how to use the QMS. I've actually doubled that up. There's a second lot under another label too. So there's two ways to go to that particular point. I see Matt's got his hand up. So Matt, come in, mate.
I was actually just an accidental one, but I was going to say before, when Michael was on from IMOP, while we're still stuck in the political system, yeah, vote IMOP. They're really amazing. I've read through all their policies. That's all I was going to say while he was on. Because this isn't going to be a thing that's going to happen super quickly, and you've got to look at the moment for the ones that have got the right policies and are doing it for the right reasons. So yeah, that's all I was going to say just while Michael was speaking.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, look, we know a lot of politicians are there for the money, for the power, for all the wrong reasons, or they're put there because somebody else wants them there, and they can be manipulated and used for a particular reason. I guess there's probably more reasons that I'm not aware of, having never been a politician or had no great interest in it. I'm your layman when it comes to that sort of thing, but knowing that, the system's wrong, I mean, I noticed that when I was 14, 15 years old, and I used to say to mum and dad, how come it's only ever Liberal or Labor that runs the country? And how come that politician was caught in a compromising position the other day, and yet this week they're opening a hall or a bridge or something? And my parents used to say, well, politicians are different to us. And I would agree with that, but why? And sorry, Michael, that's present company accepted. But I would agree with that totally. And why are they different to us? Why do they have different laws? And my parents used to just say, well, that's just how it is, son. Well, no, I don't accept that. I don't accept anything like that. We all live under the same rules. And if people think because they're in a position of power that they have a right to step outside of those rules, and well, anyone who lives in Victoria will see how VicPol's been behaving lately. It's terrifying. I mean, it's really hard to stand up against men with guns and mace and who come in big groups. And you can't stand up anyway. You can't even defend yourself against the police because you'll end up on assault charge. So you're in a very awkward position here. And I'm talking as a Victorian, so I'm talking from a Victorian point of view. I've heard what other parts of Australia are like, but at the moment here in Victoria, I know a lot of people are terrified. We've been in jail for over 18 months, in Vic prison, as I call it. I want out. Everyone wants out. Now, luckily, I'm not a very good prisoner, and I'm not very good at following rules. I follow the rules of don't cause no harm, don't take what is not yours, and if you break it, fix it, or at least make amends. That's the way I've lived my life. Yet there's 9 million pieces of legislation, and I've still found myself in front of a court, and I've still run afoul of the law because of those 9 million pieces of legislation that are written in a way that I don't understand and that people can interpret however they like. Right? I want a clear system. I want common language. I want it to be straightforward. I shouldn't have to pay a lawyer to represent me in court. I've got a mouth, I've got a brain, I can talk for myself. Yet doing that in the courtroom has not usually done me a lot of good. I have won a couple of court cases by myself, but yeah, probably more good luck than good judgment, to be honest. So if you don't have money and you're going to court, you're already at the wrong end of the stick, because legal aid sells you up the proverbial. They don't care. They just get the cheapest, quickest job done so they can get their money and they're off. So if you're represented by legal aid, your chances of winning much reduced than if you can actually afford to pay a decent lawyer to represent you. But my point is, why should you have to? Why should you have to spend money to defend your own honor, to defend yourself? You shouldn't. And if you want an advocate, fair enough. If you don't feel confident or strong enough or whatever, or you don't understand, that's fine. But from a legal aid perspective, I don't highly recommend using them, to be quite honest. I know a lot of people have to, and I've had to. But yeah. Yeah, I see, Dave, you got your hand up again.
Graham, sorry, before Dave jumps on, sorry, Dave,
Yeah.
just hang on a minute. We've just got some questions here in the chat. So the first one is, what about the Dominion vote counting system they are planning on bringing in, the vote rigging system? What's your thoughts?
I think it's going to be as corrupt as what they did in the US. I think that I don't know which side they plan to put in, but I know they put in what they want to put in. I know that I see our government as puppets of the elite. Where the money flows, that's where the power goes. So the elite control it. We can use this QMS to cut the strings of the puppet masters who control those politicians, and we, the audience, need to tell our own story. And that's where I'm at with that. Dominion voting's corrupt. I've never voted. I'm not about to start unless it's in something like the QMS. And I know I just said that in front of a politician, so I hope I don't get in any trouble for that. I have been fined for it in the past, but I also got off. So just tell the judge how corrupt the government is, and they don't want to hear about it. They usually throw you out of court, I can tell you that.
Related question, how would this be adopted into mainstream politics?
Okay, so we're creating a new paradigm. We're drawing a line in the sand and stepping over it. Initially, everything is going to stay the same as if we chose the QMS, everything would stay the same until we redesign it. So that's when we need the people in health, the people in education, the leaders of this country who know what they're doing and can present it to put the policies in. And if they've got a lobby, to lobby. If people want the same thing, to get to the first 1,000 votes, you could put the vote in and either lobby, get all your friends to jump on there and do it, or you could go out and find that 1,000 people just want the same thing at once, which is going to bring it to the next level, which is going to get it into the news feed. And once it's in the news feed, that's going to develop awareness in it, because as people see it and vote on it in there to get to the 10,000, I mean, these things will happen. All of the really trigger point things that come up for the elections and that sort of thing, people will go on and deal with straight away. So, for instance, it wouldn't matter if you want to use the jab, for instance, it wouldn't matter which side that came from, whether it was the people who do not want it or the people who insist that we all need it. If you run a vote through the system like that, because of the test and measure stage and the fact that the experts cannot be on Big Pharma's payroll, in fact, if they're found to be on Big Pharma's payroll and they were doing it, it would be considered an act of treason as far as I'm concerned. And who'd risk that? So if they're not putting forth honest information and acting with integrity, they'll be caught out anyway, because it's all going to be done in front of everyone. There's more than one expert in fields of policy out there. So you could have your chemists and your doctors and your virologists come and put it forward. And even if one snuck in, we'd catch them out if they tried to do anything wrong, because others would see it and pull them up. And that's one of the key strengths of having the test measure phase in the QMS and of doing things in a transparent way like this. So do you think that a policy like the jab's going to get up as a mandated thing, or not even mandated, as they force it upon us? I don't think it would. No. The other thing is that if you put it through a system like this, it wouldn't be able to go into operation until it was fully tested and measured. If the experts said it took 6 months to do that or 7 years to do that, that's how long we'd have to wait for it. It's not going to come in just because people are receiving money to push it through, which I very strongly suspect, and I've been shown things to say that they are. So if people are, like, Dan Andrews is pushing drugs on us in Victoria every single day. Go and get the jab, go get the jab. The man is behaving like a drug pusher standing on a street corner. He's not behaving like a politician at all. He's not even behaving like a human being. He's insisting, and he's, by the 15th of October, all this, tradies, all this have to get the jab. We lost half the movement because they were scared of getting their jobs to the jab, or losing their jobs, sorry. They went and got the jab. So they're more worried about their mortgage and their family. And of course they should be, but that's more worried than their health and their life. And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, my health, my life, they even sit above my family. Because as much as I love my family and I put them first in everything, I'm useless to them if I'm dead, right? And it doesn't matter if I'm broke. I am broke. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that I live and breathe and that I'm a good dad to my son. That's what's important, and that's what I stay focused on. What a lot won't realise is that I was offered a job years ago. I went and qualified as a mediator, and I was offered a job on the United Nations Council at the time, because apparently I was the best mediator that had gone through that particular course, according to the person who was doing the accreditation, who also worked on the United Nations Council. At the time, I was in the middle of a custody battle for my 3-year-old son. I couldn't see myself going out of country. The money looked good, 350 grand a year and $1 million expense account. Wow. Fly around the world and go between nations going to war to try and stop them going to war. Don't know how successful I would have been, but they thought I might. I knocked it back because at the end of the day, my son's far more important to me than money. And I think that's where we all need to realize now, that if you give money value, if you give politics and the government value, that's where your will is, right? If you're doing that, you're perpetuating the problem. You like, every vote is perpetuating the problem. And I don't want to take votes away from good people, and I know they're out there, but when you're voting on political parties, you're coming from a pretty small point of actually getting what we need. Because at the end of the day, a lot of it's going to be based in whatever their agenda is, not necessarily the best agenda for the people. Sorry, David, I see you've been sitting there a while, mate. Pop in, if you'd like to unmute. How are you, bud? You're still on mute, bud.
I'm good. How are you going?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Yeah, and I hope you're all feeling awesome. I'm concerned. I've got a lot of friends sending me about the 27th of October, the digital identity by the government. They have phase 3 in process, wanting public consultation. I'd love to know how the QMS, if anyone here can speak with knowledge about this digital identity and how that relates to any progress with the QMS.
Look, at the end of the day, mate, I'm not a politician. I can't make any false promises to people. What I'm offering is an app where we can create our own policies and change things ourselves. Everyone needs to step into the leadership role, as far as I'm concerned, within themselves. Everybody needs to take charge of their place in the country. So things like that, Michael might be able to speak on that. I don't know much about it because, as I say, I don't follow media. I don't follow politics. And for most of the last year, I've just been focused on building this system and promoting it and getting the right people on board. And it's, you know, that has pretty much taken all of my time, along with being a dad and running a business and all those things too. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that one, but if Michael would like to give it a go, I'll hand on to him.
Yeah, well, certainly it's a phased direction towards a social credit system. You know, it's about time we get this together so that we have a voice as people in this process. Yeah, Michael, love to hear from you too.
Well, I'm certainly happy to have a chat of this. We're involved in a group called CADCO, which is the Commonwealth of Australia Democratic Cooperative. Rod Cullerton of the Great Australia Party, Australian Federation Party, Peter Harris from the AusReps. We're all part of this. And we're looking at ways to do a new way, and just exactly the sort of things we're talking about in QMS. So all I can say is that I'm interested in this. In fact, I have to go very soon. I'm running over, but I'm very happy to bring it up at the next CADCO meeting, which will be probably this coming week, and talk to the guys and get them to explore it as well. There's some very good, I know Rod's got some very defined ideas about what he thinks should happen, and I think he should look at this, and I'm very happy to get him to have a look at it. Of course, we're not voted in at this point. It's our intention that we would, but we will be looking for new systems, for better systems, because we've got a broke system. It's as you know, without repeating myself too much, it's a media-driven juggernaut that is going in the wrong direction. It's driven by these massive corporations. At the moment, our whole world agenda is driven by a utterly corrupt pharmaceutical industry. And for people that have other agendas like a lower world population and so forth. So we want something different from Australia. If Australia is a test ground for loss of freedom, whether we can be an example for other parts of the world where we embrace a system that actually works, so we can turn it on its head. I would like to think that we might be able to do something like that. It's a big ask. It's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. We're only limited by our own fears and negativity and our willingness to act. So yeah, all things are possible if we can get some unity on this and get people to support it. Of course, yes, it needs people support, and that's really it needs people to embrace it, to be inspired by it, and yeah. So but look, I'm going to have to be gone in the next 10 minutes. If the meeting goes longer than that, I do have to go by 9 o'clock. So it's been fantastic to be part of this, and thanks everyone.
Thanks, Mike. And look, I'd like to invite you to talk more with us and myself and Tim and the other guys as well, and look very closely at what we are doing, because I mean, people like you have a lot that you could bring to what we're doing. And mate, if I could get you to jump ship and join with us and step out, and a few of the other good politicians to say, right, we're done with this, let's get on board with the QMS, we'd have this country in weeks, mate. Because look, $5 million, I know how to run the referendum, and we will give it to the people, and then it's just a matter if we redesign the country together as the people.
Well, I'm certainly interested to look at it, explore it, and become a lot more knowledgeable of it. And that's where all I can commit to tonight.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. And you've got my number. Feel free to contact me anytime. If
Thanks,
you want
Graham. Will do.
Thank you. So, Tim, did you want to say anything on what we were just talking about then, or?
Yeah, look, I've got onto something that we know that Australia is the crash test dummy for the New World Order, right? That's us. And they are going at us at 100 miles an hour. They've pulled out all the stops. I could not imagine the amount of money that various people in high office have got stashed away in offshore accounts these days to have done this to this magnificent nation. However, news just to hand that the EU has dropped all, as of the 20th of the 10th, has dropped all vaccinations, has opened up ivermectin and all the other known preventatives and cures. And I believe that their concept of track and trace or digital ID is also going out the door. Now, if the EU have done this, and we are sitting here in Australia being terrorized by a handful of highly paid terrorists, and I use that in the direct terminology of what a terrorist is. They rule by fear and they cause death and harm by the thousands. That is the definition of a terrorist. We, the people, have, and we know that after the case in New South Wales, we know the concept of justice. You might as well read a Mickey Mouse comic as rather than try and get justice in our current judiciary. We, the people, have to really stomp it up as to, I don't have a definitive answer of how, but we must know that the rest of the world is giving up on the vaccine. The rest of the world is giving up on the digital ID. The rest of the world knows that the game's up. Here in Australia, they are still smashing us. And they are going to keep going because we are the crash test dummy. If they can get us to collapse, they'll come back to the rest of the world. So just know in your own hearts that the pushback against the ID, I think even people who have been vaccinated, if you look at New South Wales, the beautiful thing now in New South Wales, if you've been double vaccinated as of Monday, you can stand up at the pub and have a beer. You know, like, give me a break, Reg. You mean I can have 20 people at home and not 10? Oh my goodness, let me scream for my freedom. And oh, yes, that's right. If you're double vaxxed and you've got your little tickety thing, you can travel further away from home than those who do not have it. I mean, seriously, I understand that the vaccine in a lot of people causes diminished cognitive response. However, I'm sure they can figure the fact out that they have been duped big time. They can't fly, they can't cross a border, they can't do anything. The vaccine passport, I believe, will be their great last threat to create fear, to get enough people over the line to take more jabs. And New South Wales saying that they've got an 80% jab rate. I think that's an 80% imagination rate. Yes, they have a high jab rate, but it's nowhere near 80%. They're telling us here in South Australia that we had 65%. And yet, when you look at the number of vaccines being administered, it's more like 34%. We have to understand that everything that the media tells us has a modicum of truth in it. But if your children lied to you as badly as the media lies to you, you would find a punishment suitable for those children, whatever that was. I know if I lied to my mum and dad the way these people lie to me, Mum would have slapped me not into the middle of next week. She would have slapped me 3 birthdays forward. Right? Seriously. So, yes, they're pushing for the digital ID. There is no doubt they have the technology and everything to do it. But I believe it's the last great slam of fear to put upon us. So be aware of it, push back against it every chance you get. I've personally got onto a number of politicians' Facebook pages, and I love commenting on their Facebook pages. I put all sorts of wonderful information in there for them, not for them to read, but for their supporters to read. Right? Little things. The other thing, and I just want to touch on this, somebody said, Matt, I think it was you, that you've taken a few days off social media because you just, my wife and I, we went away, as Graham knows. I missed Thursday night because we were still on the road coming home, but we took some time out, and we took time out from, I didn't take my computer. We stayed off the phones. We did everything. We went to a friend's little shack down by the beach, and we sat there for 3 days and listened to the silence. I had to get my 3 remaining brain cells to walk in line, one behind the other. And I suggest everybody else take time off. Understand this. Everything that you do is valuable in the push to free our country. But understand that you've got to look after your own mental and emotional health. And just because you put the baton down for a rest for a few days doesn't mean the war is lost. All soldiers go home for some R&R. You have been in a psychological, emotional, physical, and financial war for the last 18 months, 24 hours a day, every day of the week. Do not collapse under your own desire for freedom. Take some time out. Shut down, switch the phone off. It'll go ting, ting, ting when you switch it back on again. It'll be all right. Right? Take 2 or 3 days out and just listen to the silence. Because a burnt out warrior is of no value. There's a bigger danger to you as the enemy is, because they no longer have the capacity to fight for you. We need strong warriors. We need people mentally and emotionally and physically strong, not burnt out, fractured and frazzled. So again, the passport, yes, they've got the technology, they've got it all set up, but it's their last big threat. If the rest of the world's wiping it out, it won't take long. Don't you worry. All right. So that's all I've got to say on that. Thank you.
Just on the technology front too, if they've got the technology for the passport, we've got the technology to give ourselves a voice now. So stuff their passport. I'm not doing it. I'm not being part of it. And I don't care what they tell me to do. If it's not right for me, I'm not doing it. Right. And if they force me into a jail or something like that because I refuse, well, again, I'll fight every step of the way. They'd have to kill me to get that jab into me. They'd have to kill me to get me on that vaccine passport, because I'm not going to sign for anything I don't accept. I say no, right? And put my kid on it and see what happens. Give my kid the jab and see what happens. No way, right? And I mean, look, my son is 15 and he wants the jab because his mother's convinced him to get it. And I'm terrified he's going to get it. So if I could stop all this today, believe me, I'd stop it, right? But I'm like everyone else. I'm just a human being. I'm one person against a corrupt system. You've got to become creators. We've got to get creative. We've got to find ways to move forward. We've got to stop focusing on the problems, stop being scared, stop focusing in the fear, because fear is totally debilitating. When you slap down, if you stay down, sure, you mightn't get hurt again. But if you get up, if you really get up, that shows your enemy that you're not scared. Right? You can take a pounding, you can lose, you can stand up, and you can continue on. If you do everything from a base of love, heart-based, and you act with integrity at every step of the way, so you're as honest as the day is long, as much as you can be. You don't have to tell a word about yourself. I do enough of that. I live with my heart on the sleeve. It's not necessarily the best way to do it, right? But if you can get out there and just live to your truth, like Tim does, like Penny does, like Matt, like Michelle, like Magic, even, you know, people like Rod Cullerton and Michael before. These people are doing their best to, and Ross even, sorry, Ross, I didn't mean to leave you out as well. These people all stand in their truth, right? And that's what a true warrior is, somebody who stands in their truth. Do you know how in the Bible, it says the meek will inherit the earth. The meek aren't weak. The meek are the people who've had enough, who are nice, who are heart-based, who are honest. They're the ones who inherit this earth, if that is what happens. So we've got some other questions. So I'll ask Kerry to unmute now. G'day, Kerry. How are you? Nice to see you in person again. We chat on the phone occasionally. She's you know, Kerry's a wonderful friend of mine also. So hi, go for it.
Great, thanks. It's good to be here. I remembered. First off, congratulations, Graham, for what you've been able to create and the team that you've got around you. Thank you for all of that, everything that you do. And especially with the adversity that you had recently, I feel that that was just a beautiful energy to help propel you to the direction that you really needed to go. So well done for going through all of that. A couple of things. One thing that sort of jumped out at me, and I really want to, this is about moving forward when the QMS is running, etc. Now, it was suggested, let's say, for example, that the question comes up, let's have quarantine or not. And the majority of people say they do want to have quarantine. Mm-hmm. I'm totally against that. So what happens within the system to combat that? Well, hang on, that is totally out of the place for me. How do you appease that? How does that work?
Well, when it gets up to the 10,000 people wanting to go into quarantine, that's when the experts come in. And as we've heard the experts say, quarantine is not good for us. So who's going to want to go into quarantine if it's not good for us? And I mean, we've got experience now, so the experts are going to see that pretty quickly. We'll lose a lot of people to suicide if we go into quarantine. We'll lose a lot of people to other illnesses because they're not getting their vitamin D through the sun. They're not getting out there in the fresh air. All these things that make us human, that actually make us part of this earth, are being denied to us at the moment. They're putting foreign substances in us. That stuff's crazy. Like that. What's crazy is that people accept this, that people don't just go about their business. I mean, to the best of my ability, I have. And I'm sure I'm a bit scared when I go for a drive in the car at night at 10 o'clock and I'm living in Victoria and I'm out past curfew. I'm expecting every police car is going to get me. And because I'm the only one on the road, I know I'm really obvious. But you know what? I don't care. I look over my shoulder a lot and I might feel a bit paranoid doing it. But what are they going to do? They're going to pull me up and give me a fine, which I'm not going to pay anyway. Right. So, I mean, it's up to you. I'm not telling people not to pay fines, but I don't, and I'm not going to start. So they can stick it. As far as I'm concerned, they're messing with my inalienable rights to freedom. Right. I was born sovereign of this land. And I'm the creator granted that to me, not some government. Right. And whether you believe in the creator or not, every one of us is sovereign. Every one of us is sovereign. The minute that we're born, we lose our sovereignty when we will it away to another system. Again, as I've mentioned, because I've never voted and gone on their electoral rolls and things like that, I feel I'm a little bit different to others in that regard, but not everyone does too. There are people that stay off the system. So
that's but moving forward, so that was one example. So what happens when you're going to educate people before a final decision is made?
Yes.
What happens if it does happen that there is a majority that go one way for whatever reason? It may be a common sense thing and it's their decision and it's like, no way, I don't like it. How do you work with that?
What would happen is, obviously, we'd probably go into a lockdown for a couple of weeks. Then after a couple of weeks, people would be saying, not this didn't work. I don't like this. My friend over there killed themselves. It'd get raised again. And by that stage, the people, I'm pretty sure, would change it. So
sorry, but what about if it was that school system was to be run in a certain way, but it's like, no, I don't want it that way. So it's not just about the virus or anything that we've been going through. Moving forward, in every aspect of our lives,
Mhm.
How do you work with a majority run when others will say, I didn't like that? So that's
Well, look, we still work under majority rule at the moment in regard to we've put a political party in place that the majority voted for that has determined the laws. The difference in this is that we're educated now. We're seeing the laws be created, or we're seeing the process that they're being created under, and we're understanding the reasons for them. To be honest, in a society such as Australia, if the people were educated along the process and saw why things were going into place and had the truth, better decisions can be made. Now, the media may try to manipulate it one way or another, or a corporate may try to manipulate one thing one way or another. Manipulating the system is an act of treason. So, I mean, at the end of the day, when they're found out, they've got to face whatever the people of Australia choose to make the punishment of treason for. And in most countries, that's a firing squad or hanging. And
yeah. Well, you're talking about the old system, but in the new system, so basically, we would have education.
Mhm.
We would, because there's integrity, there's transparency, and all the rest of it. It would probably sort of flow more. We'll just be more educated and more informed to make the decisions that'll work for everyone.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there could be a wrong policy go through. That could happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is based in, it's real-time voting, it's real-time politics, so to speak. So if something does go through and we start to use it and we realize, oh, gee, we made a mistake en masse, we don't want that anymore. We simply go back in, we say, this has been a mistake because of this. 1,000 people say we want it. We raise it up through the process again.
Okay.
And basically bring the experts in again, and then we remove that and put in a better policy or a better process.
So it's not set in concrete.
Yeah, we're not going to be in lockdowns ever again for 18 months if we go through something like this, unless it was like for some incredibly, and I can't imagine a reason why we would ever do it, but maybe some toxic gas surrounds us and we'll have to, I don't know. No, it's all airy-fairy, but if the wrong decision's made, it's going to be noticed pretty quickly and people will change it quickly. And the system gives us real-time access to do that and a voice to do that in.
Can I just butt in for a second too, Graham?
Yeah, sure, mate.
It's just Matt. Just in regards to the schooling system as well, with something like QMS, if you were to put the initial starting block, so you're always going to have a term of reference to start off.
Yeah.
So the initial term of reference in schooling, you get all the experts involved to put together a schooling system. And as you say, if you don't all agree with it, I would think within a QMS type system, you're not going to have a schooling system that's rigid. You're going to have more flexibility to the system anyway, because the schooling system we have in place now is really to indoctrinate children and have like factory workers come out the other end. That's what it was built for.
Yeah.
If we have the QMS system and we put in a term of reference for education, you're going to have different types of schools. So you're going to have a better system to start off with, so that when you start doing QMS type referendums, hopefully it doesn't rigidize it and stop everyone from being able to work within the system. That's what I would say.
So you've really got the experts getting together, creating something, and then going through the QMS, and of course, then we vote. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. I wanted to also mention getting out of the fear and the energy of it. I've been able to shift from being triggered to, I still feel the pain and stuff stirs up, but every time something stirs up now, I know it's just another level for me to internally pick up and raise my vibration. Just yesterday, I found out that my husband, he got the shot and didn't tell me. All his family have got it, and now most of his family are quarantined, and one has a 3-month-old baby. So I've got all of that happening. Now, I know that just a couple of years ago, I would have been a right-out mess. But now I'm heart-centered, and you feel it. But I know that there's something that we're moving forward to. So what am I creating? And that's my focus instead of what's happening now. I mean, you need to deal with things that are happening now as well. But what am I creating? And I'm just so thankful, and I want to share that if you feel that fear or the angst or the pain or whatever, allow it and just be in that and call out to someone. Call out to somebody and say, and cry and swear and throw the chair, whatever it is that you feel that you need to do with someone, not the chair, at the person, okay, just to make sure that's clear, to allow yourself to just really become your heart, to become within you, because if we have you as you are as a soul and you're here for a reason, then you are going to bring up more of your talents and expertise and abilities and knowing and purpose than if you stayed in that fear. And the more that you do that, the more people are going to see and go, wow, what have they got? You know, I want that. So I just want to share that. So remember, if you feel anything, and if you feel happy and joy and love, express that as well. It's emotions that are just, you know, feelings in movement. And instead of attaching ourselves to it and attaching the story to it, just allow yourself to feel it. Thanks for sharing. Where am I going to? And so I just wanted to share that, and you know, really hope that you can get into that heart center for yourselves and help the rest of your loved ones around you as well when you do that. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Vince, you got a question, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Actually, it's not a question, it's more a bit of information. Everyone's talking about the digital ID that's coming out. People have to understand they've already got it. Right? I work in IT, have done for 30 odd years. The amount of databases we have out there at the moment, which has all of our information, all of our IDs, everything we have, your driver's license, your tax info, all of that stuff, it's already there. This is just a little bit of a red herring. Yes, they may be able to use it for social scoring and doing that sort of Chinese type process. But if we do want to look at this and go back a long way, there was a referendum about this and they lost. All right. So today it's already out there. You're already ID'd. You already got your digital. Don't focus on that. Focus on what is important for everybody here. And that is a time to stand up, stop the fear, get out there and actually move forward in ways that we can actually use the system against themselves, if you understand that. So just as an interest, I was running a Linktree page that had lots of information on it. It just got censored. So bad luck. It'll be back on my own server. Anyway, catch you guys later.
Thanks, Vince. And that's actually a really good point that Vince put forward there, because these two are things we could change. We can set laws within the system that make our online appearance and our digital ID disappear or be much safer. So there are ways we can do that. And I mean, I'm not an IT expert like Vince, or and I'm sure we might even have a few others in here, but there has to be ways to make our digital ID and our privacy safer, because we're all entitled, and I do believe we're all entitled to our privacy. And if you're not causing harm, not taking from others, and not, you know, damaging and not giving restoration, then if no harm's done and there's no victim, I don't really see a crime. So if we could tighten up all of that, and that takes people like Vince coming forward, not the people who want to control us coming forward and telling us how it's done. It's people who have the expertise in those areas coming forward and saying, I can see a better way where we still have our privacy, we can still have our online ID, but it's not being sold to other places, it's not being linked to all these other accounts. And we were tricked into it by things like Facebook and Google and all those sorts of things, but then the government's gone and linked your Medicare and all, and your MyGov and all that rubbish as well. Honestly, we could stop using those things, but these things are all beneficial in our lives. So if we're going to have beneficial things in our lives, things like that are being manipulated, then we need to have rules in place that protect us within them. And the current system doesn't allow for that, because they don't want to protect us and our identity. They actually want to control us. So if we want things like that to change, a system like the QMS can be used to change them. David, would you like to come back in, mate? You got another question for me, mate? You there, David? You're a bit frozen there, mate. I'm not sure if you got... Unmute, Dave.
Hey, was that me? I just disappeared
someone just tried to log into my Facebook account, interestingly enough, while I'm in this meeting. I've just got a reset code come through on it. So that's rather interesting. Sorry, David, you've dropped out, mate.
Can you guys hear me?
No, mate, I think you might have a bit of a bandwidth issue.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Oh, you're freezing on the screen, mate.
Oh, okay. How's the timing? So you can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, David.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. Well, I'll just talk quickly between the bytes. I just wanted to give a report. I've got the Democracy app on my phone. Love the logo. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Anyway, I've got the Democracy app. It looks great. I just would love to see some action on it. There's 2 topics. Many topics we could have vote. It's all here. Let's actually make this app happen. How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect, mate. And that's exactly what we need now. That's what we invite, is everybody's engagement. Get in there, have your say, put some ideas into it, put them forward, get your suggestions into the system. It starts within the website. We've got the People's Voice page on the website that we can do this in. And then as it gains momentum, as it gains input, because that's what we want. We want policies to run through the system so we can see how it works. We want people to try it out. And I mean, obviously, it's not going to be in governance. It's not going to make a difference to what's going on out there at the moment, because at the moment, we don't have the will of the people on board through referendum vote yet. But we do have the lawful authority to have this system operating in this country, and it is the only system of governance in the country that is operating under lawful authority of the tribal nations of Australia. So if you think about it, this country, whether you want to consider it was settled or invaded, the things that were done to the Indigenous people were terrible and disgusting. It was done for control reasons, so that the original people, they were pushed back, right? And regardless of your stand on that, they were here before most other nationalities came here. So really, it is their land. It is their country. They don't want ownership over the land either, by the way. They want custodianship over it, which is fair, absolutely fair, right? Why shouldn't they have? They want to see our animals and their sacred sites and things like that protected. I don't think there'd be an Australian alive that would want our native plants and animals destroyed, or our special places of interest and beautiful sites destroyed. I mean, they all need to be protected. But unfortunately, when money comes into it, and when politicians are involved and powers involved and corporations are involved, who gives a stuff? Nothing gets in the way of their progress, only the progress of the human race. So now we can change that. And with their support, that actually puts us in a very unique position. Having the first system of lawful governance in this country, for me, that was amazing when they told me that, and when they gave me authority with that. Wow. I mean, wow. But look, all of the corrupt corporation, as I say, is only there because people so far have given it its will. When we can get to the point of running the referendum, and the more people that come in, the less we all need to contribute to get to it. So my point is, as Tim said before, go out and find 5 of your friends, bring them in. If you could do it every day, and if they went and found 5 people, we're days away from success, right? Because do you think the masked love the government? They don't. They mightn't have much empathy at the moment. They mightn't like us very much at the moment, the unmasked or the unvaxxed. But do you think they trust their government? Most of them are pissed off because they've been ripped off on the tax. They've had something done within their family that they didn't want. A lot of people took the jab unwillingly, and I'm not happy about it because they were forced into it, right? All those people, they're people you can bring. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if people are vaxxed or not, right? It really doesn't. We need to unify this country. We need to stand together, right? So pushing people out of, because they've had a vaccine, I don't want to see that happen, right? I know that there's risks that come from, and they consider the same from the other side too, believe it or not. So everyone in this country has a right to a voice. We may not like what that voice has to say, but they have a right to voice it. And that's where I'm coming from. So if we all have our voices, we all stand strong in our truth, sometimes people are going to get up and say really dumb things. Well, I know I have, right? It happens. But the way to get the best result is lots of ideas and the right support behind it. And that's how you do anything. You become a leader in what you believe in, and you put it out, and people will flock to it. I mean, if it's good, if it's true, if it's real, if it's altruistic, and you stand in your truth and you come from a point of integrity, I mean, I'm talking from experience, people will flock to you, and you'll get your thing out there. That's how any policy can be raised. I mean, Matt has been doing the poison, I'm not quite sure what you call it, but the poison blood thing. He's been doing that for a while. He's been talking out about a lot of the issues and concerns that have been going on. And I mean, Matt, this dude has been shot. He's been all sorts of things. I mean, I don't know how Matt does it. The guy is an extreme warrior. And when you meet him, he's the nicest, meekest man you'll ever meet. An absolute true gentleman. Yet he stands in his truth every single day. He does it with conviction, right? And you're allowed to be scared, you know, but fear is debilitating. So you're better off putting your fear aside, realizing that the only fear out there that you need to fear is fear itself. And I know that I'm using a couple of old adages and things like that and whatnot, but they're true, right? If you're scared, you won't get anywhere. You won't achieve anything. If you stand in your truth, if you stand in your power and you believe what you're doing, you'll get everywhere. So, and I mean, people like Penny too, she has done this too. She's stood in her truth all the way through. And I mean, Penny, look, Penny has worked really hard to bring the right people together in this too. And Penny's been with me for quite a long time in this, right? You know what? Magic, Michelle, I mean, I'm so lucky. And then to have Tim with us as well. And the other people, and all you people that regularly attend our meetings, all you people that have given support. And when I got kicked in the guts a little while back, all you people that picked me up and helped me move forward and sent nice messages and said thank you. Every one of you was instrumental in building what we've got. So again, thank you. We're getting towards the end of the meeting. We've got about another 8 minutes left. So I'd like to invite any more questions if anyone's got one. Magic, were there any in the chat that you wanted to bring in?
We've just got a few things here, like how can people download the app?
Okay, so there is a downloads page on the website. So if you go to that, it'll take you to the Google Play Store or to the Apple Store where you can download it from there. The current app that we have only works on mobile phone. We're hoping to get a version of it fairly soon that'll also work on PC. So the first stages of the process can be done on app or on mobile phone. There's also the QMS app, which you can download. You'll get links in the emails that come out once you become a member that allow you to go on and download the app. So there's two apps. There's the QMS app, and then there's the the Democracy app. The Democracy app is where the final vote stage is held, and the rest of the process is done in the actual QMS itself. We have the Australian and New Zealand rights to the Democracy app, and obviously world rights to the QMS itself. The Democracy app we've trialed. It's a blockchain voting application. They will be bringing in the next version. It's what is it? The identity thing, So it does an eye scan or a fingerprint scans, biometrics identity scanning, which means that at some point, in order to, when the system went into effect, we'd probably have to go somewhere, be identified as who we say we are, record those two things into the app, which is a blockchain app. It's not getting shared all over the place. It's decentralized. So your information, we can't even see your information in it, but people who are using it will have to go through the process of ensuring that their identity is correct. So whether they do that at a doctor's or a post office, I don't know what process will be put in place yet. As I said, I've created the tool, and I'm hoping others are going to come and help us develop all the processes that will need to happen around it, because there are more processes to be developed. But the big exciting thing at the moment is that by becoming a member of the QMS, you actually instantly get your sovereignty back, because you've agreed that you're unhooking yourself from the system. And very soon we'll have some paperwork there for you that you can send off to relevant authorities to close off those situations with the old system. And part of what we're going to do to fundraise is that we're going to put together a certificate. We're waiting on some information and graphic work to come through from the tribal nations, but you'll be able to purchase a frame certificate and essentially similar to a driver's license identity card that you can then use to demonstrate that you're under the jurisdiction of the QMS and under the protection of the Australian tribal nations. So that is, I mean, to me, that's gold, and that's probably the most valuable thing that at the moment we'll be able to offer until we get enough people in to run the referendum. Once you unhook from the system, though, if we start creating the policies and things within the QMS, we can actually run as a stand-aside society too. So we can actually like unhook ourselves and then continue as QMS society while, you know, QMS Australia, or whatever we want to call ourselves, the free people of Australia, while corporate Australia operates over here under the corporate system. So there's many things that can happen from here. It's really up to how many people come on board, how quickly we can raise funds to get some marketing information out there and to hold a people's initiated referendum. We can get the sooner, look, if I had $5 million in my back pocket today, we would be 5 weeks away from the QMS being the system of preference and operating the country. Because I believe that by the time I got it out to every Australian household and showed them what it was and we ran the referendum, I think most people would prefer self-governance to what we've had. And I mean, even if people want leaders still, as I said, I'm not unhooking leaders. I'm taking out the political parties, the politicians, and the people that are stealing from us, right? We're cutting the strings of the elite, right? Get our country back and let's go hunting the elite ourselves. That's what I say. But that's up to better people than me. David, you got another question, mate? Come in. You'll need to unmute, mate.
Yeah, thanks. I'm in the app. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And it, see that, where we are. Trying to show you. Okay, that's not...
It's hard when you got the background.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I'm in the app, voting rights and democracy. I'm trying to create a...
okay, so the creation part is done in the people's voice. So on the website itself or in the QMS app, the democracy app aspect of it is the final referendum vote. So there's 4 stages that everything goes through. The first 3 are held on the website, and the final stage, the blockchain voting stage, is within the app itself.
Cool. All right, I'm glad I mentioned that. So we do it through the website as members first.
Yeah, so you don't have to be a member to raise policy in the website at this point in time. We may change that down the track. At the moment, anybody can use the people's voice to go and create policy and raise it. So I didn't want to sort of shut that off at the moment. I wanted everyone to have a chance to play with it and experience. You can also, you don't have to be a member to download the app either. You have to be a member if you want to unhook yourself from the system. You have to be a member if you want to get to our links and documents that we share with our members. That we thought that was the best way of managing it, because we're not going to give information out to all and sundry, but we do need to test the system, and we do want the system to sort of, you know, obviously have some content in it and going through it. So if you go in the people's voice, mate, you can raise a poll, you can ask a question, you can suggest a policy, and you can run polls on it if you want in there. You can have multiple answers in there if you want to set it that way, or just one answer. It's got a lot of flexibility in how you do it. I want to sort of try to tidy that up and make it a little bit more user friendly, because it's like posting, you know, social media sites to some degree at the moment, but that's okay. It still works for what we need it to do. So yeah,
we can revisit this next time we have a meeting and see the progress we've had.
Yeah. Well, if people would like to give it a try, and you know, you can contact us at info@theqms.org. You can also contact us through the chat on the website, on Facebook. We've got a few other social media sites which you'll find on the website as well. We've got quite a few videos going up at the moment. There's the one we did on Thursday, which I'm still in the throes of putting together and getting up there. Tonight's meeting will be up there as well. But yeah, look, we're in a very unique position at the moment. If we want to change this country and the world, we now have the tool to do it, and it's live, and we've got version 1.0. It'll evolve as time goes and as people bring better things to the table and as people bring improvements to it. But yeah, it's there, it works, and it's been endorsed by the tribal nations of Australia. And I mean, no other system of governance ever has. So we've actually created history by becoming the first lawful system of governance. Whether it's the chosen system of governance is up to the people, but it is a lawful system. It's the only lawful system of governance open to us at the moment that the tribal people have approved. So
Graham, sorry, you mentioned a little bit earlier about a certificate. So Dave has just asked, how will that work with driving on roads, banking, etc.?
Okay, their answers are, Tim, do you want to come in on this? Because I'm not 100% sure how that all works, to be quite honest. My main focus has been always getting the QMS up and working, and we've got Mike Holt works with us as well. We've got Wayne Glue has been working with us. We've got quite a few legal team, but Tim's probably the best authority to put this question to at the moment.
Well, how does it work with a license and driving on the roads and all that sort of stuff? We have to understand that we are free to travel on the King's Highway as long as we do damage to none or obstruct another traveller. All right. The concept of having a license is in the construct of what the corporations want us to pay for. Then you talk about third-party insurance. At the moment, we all pay our third-party insurance, but the insurance is in actual fact covered by the state or the government itself. Again, we've been hoodwinked into paying third-party insurance. Now, you can't walk with a foot on either side of the line. When we step out, there is a process that we'll obviously go through that notifies the system that we are no longer part of their corporate system. And we do have, there's many people who travel without a license, without third-party registration. You don't need to pay a fee every few years to prove that you can drive a car. You know, I don't have any problems having identification on a car, so as if you do cause a damage to somebody, they know who caused the damage. It's not about escaping responsibility, but the fact of paying for it, that's thievery and tax, right? And these are the concepts, the paradigms in our mind that we need and will take time to shift those paradigms. When you register a car every year, well, your car was registered once, they've got the number, they've got all the details. Why do you have to pay it every year? Well, cause. No, not cause. It's a paradigm. It's a programming where we've been programmed into it. So yes, we'll be able to travel on the roads without a license. You won't need it. As long as you know how to drive and you've been taught how to drive properly, and you live under the basis of you cause no harm to anybody, we are already free to travel the King's highways. I'm not going to go into any of the processes that I've used in my travels to step outside the system. But one of the things I did do that I will suggest to anybody is, if you're due to get a license in the near future, like as in to renew your license, where you put your signature on the license, you put your signature there, but directly behind your signature, write all rights reserved. That takes you out of any contract, right? So understand there is already processes in place that are lawful, that we are not bound by their corruption or their insatiable appetite for taxation.
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Look, the way I stayed out of the system was I just never went on an electoral roll. I never voted. I've got a driver's license. I don't like the cops pulling me over and give me a hard time about not having a license. And obviously I pay the reg on the car for the same reason. But that's as, you know, and obviously I've got a bank account, a mobile phone and an internet connection. But that's as close as I am into the system that most people use. I've claimed Centrelink in the past too, because I don't mind taking from corrupt bastards, but I don't want to give them anything. I don't want to keep it going. And I mean, I've lied to them in the past too, even though lying's not my natural state. When people lie to me, I don't feel any reason to have to be honest back to them. And I've watched that happen with cops. I've watched it happen in the courts. In fact, when I stood up in court and told the judge why I hadn't voted, and he asked me, why haven't you voted? Well, first he asked why I hadn't paid the fines, and I said because I didn't have any money. And when he said, why haven't you voted? I just simply said to him, it's a corrupt two-party political system full of pedophiles. And his answer to that was, oh, you're one of them, are you? And I said, what's one of them? And he said, just get out of my courtroom. Right, you can pay $300 in the poor box. I should have argued the $300, and I was about to, but my dad insisted I pay it because he thought, for $47,000 worth of fines, he thought that was a pretty fair deal, and it was. I paid Dad back.
Graham, can I jump in here? I had a similar situation. Most people, the one part of politics or the government that most people are scared of is taxation department. The tax man's coming for you. We had a couple of battles in the court with the tax man, and I helped somebody else with a battle. And we had the situation where the tax man will try and take you into a magistrate's court. Magistrate's got no jurisdiction to hear taxation matters, right? Literally does not. Anyway, so we had the magistrate confounded in that court. Then we went into another court with these people and basically argued that until the taxation department could actually prove that they existed at law and the Hansard on which it was read into law could be produced, then they are not a lawful entity. And the judge was huffing and puffing and fluffing, and the judge and the taxation department were working together to try and get the whole thing tipped over. But when these people stood in their absolute knowledge, not hearsay, not somebody else's theory on life, in their knowledge, they broke the biggest boogeyman, the scariest mob in town, to the point where the barrister or the two barristers for the ATO just closed their books and sat down. They had nowhere to go, because when you know that the different parts of the government are unlawful, they just walk away. We had it just recently in a $100,000 claim against some friends. They went into the court and started reading out to the judge the 12 presumptions of law or of court. And when you challenge a presumption, the court must stop until the challenge has been rebutted. Well, they got to point 4, and the judge said, I suppose you want me to stand down? And they said, yes. The judge would not stand down. They heard the case. And at the end of the case, the finding was that the judge had to reserve the result of the whole case, right? It was reserved. The finding was reserved. Do you know why it was reserved? Because of the 12 presumptions of court. When you challenge a presumption, it has to stop. They no longer had the power nor the authority to pass judgment. When you know how corrupt these people are and you know where the little triggers are to pull on them, it all just folds away. These people walked out basically $100,000 better off. Every aspect of the government, the courts, the whole thing, it can all be brought down when they know that you know they're illegal.
Yeah, stand in your truth and stand by what you believe. And if you're following lawful acts, they can't really do much to you. Do you know the QMS has got a few people at that level a little worried, I would think. It's gaining a lot of support. but I sit a free man today because all I'm doing is exercising political expression. I'm not trying to say, let's throw the government out, right? I'm not saying let's have violent acts and destroy things. What I did was I went and created a new way of doing things. We've got a communist party and a Nazi party here, right? If they're allowed to exist, then I've got a pretty strong argument for the QMS to be allowed to exist. So they can drag me in there, they can do what they like. And I'm not going to enjoy it. I won't enjoy it at all. But I'll stand my ground, I'll stand in my truth, and I'll be asking them, well, what law have I broken? Where did I do something wrong? And how did it affect anybody? Because it doesn't. What I'm trying to do is give the country back to the people. And that's what we want, isn't it? We all want our voices heard. We all want to have a say in how things run. We all want to be able to say no when something's being forced on us. So the only way we do that is we create a better system. We step outside of theirs. We get into the better system. We use it because it's important that we use it. If we don't use it, as Tim said earlier, there's no point to having it. And I mean, we've got to start getting in there and start changing things within the system. And although that may not make a difference in the real world yet, very soon, one day it will. And I'm absolutely certain of that, because I wouldn't have had all the things happen that have happened along the way that have brought the system forth, that have brought me to this point, that have collected the people along the way I've managed to collect. They would not have happened without, I believe, divine providence. So, I mean, if you really saw the way this has fallen together and all the signs that I've been given along the way about being on the right path here, you'd be like me, you'd be certain that one day this is going to be the system of governance. It's really up to us all as to how quick that is. The sooner we bring people in, the sooner we either get to 9 million members and hold our own referendum within it, or the sooner we get a bit of fundraising done and we raise maybe it's about $5 million we've worked out. It's an estimate to do the PIR. If we run that PIR, believe it or not, the army has to actually step in, and with the authority of the tribal nations behind us, that was granted by what they call him, the state executor, right? So he's the highest ranking amongst the tribal nations. So with that, he actually has the authority to go to our army and order them into action. So they would actually, once the referendum was held, if we were the chosen, and we got 62% of the country to agree to operate under the QMS, you want to see the government go and you want to put them on ropes, the army will do it for you. Personally, I think you hand them back to the International Monetary Fund and we absolve ourselves of the gross national debt. But that's my opinion. And as I say, I've got ideas about what I'd like to see in the country too. And part of the reason why I don't talk about policy here is because we've got a tool and we've got a way forward. If I go and create policy, I become a politician. I will put policies and suggestions in there from time to time, but without the people's vote, without the people's will, they mean as much as anybody's, if you know what I mean. So we've all got to go and now's the time to start using this, engage, bring your friends on board, bring your family on board, bring everybody that you know. And if you've got ways of bringing people in, if you're in groups and things like that, share our information through the groups, share the platform in there within social media, share it, like, even if you're writing it on bits of paper and handing it out to your friends, go check this out, or at a friend's house and you say, let's jump on the website and have a look at what's happening on with this policy that I created or that my friend created. Right, that's the way you can get it out there and you can show people, and we can actually show people there's a better way and a different way of doing things, because what we've created is an alternative to the Westminster system and is a way to get free. So look, I'm going to wind the meeting up now, unless anybody's got anything else, a last minute thing they want to quickly say. It's been a really, this week it has been a very, again, amazing week. I'm very humbled by the entire experience that I'm going through at the moment, and very appreciative of all the people who've stood through everything thick and thin by my side with this, because it hasn't always been pretty. But I want to say thank you to you all, to all the supporters, to everybody that's come in tonight, to Tim, to Penny, and everybody else, and Michelle and Magic and Ross, and, you know, even having other people in, you know, that have spoken, the questions. David, thank you. all of the people that you're what makes this happen, and you're why this can work. So every one of you is a warrior and is a leader in your own right. Now's the time to step into that role, into the leadership role. And you don't have to go out, come with me. None of that matters, right? Get some ideas happening, put them in the QMS. Let's raise them up through it. Let's see how they go. And let's get out there and build our country into what it should be. Because, I mean, we've all been through hell the last 18 months. It's time that things actually went to the better. And at the moment, with what they're trying to do, turning the unvaxxed against the vaxxed and vice versa, it's just dumb. It's not going to go anywhere, right? If we need to unify our country, and first we unify ourselves, we bring all the people together. And then what we do is and I mean all the people, it doesn't matter, right? And then we have our referendum, and then we end this crap once and for all, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick of it. So go out, get creative, think of ways you can bring people in, stop focusing on all the problems, focus on the solutions. The problems will always be there. Solutions only come when you bring them forth. And don't expect people to be your heroes. Don't think heroes are coming to rescue us. That's the worst thing we can do. We all need to be our own heroes. We all need to step up into our own truths, our own strengths. Right now, everyone here has different skills, has different abilities. How can you use them? What can you do to make your country better? And one of them is bring people to the QMS. Let's get this rolling, because if we do, bye-bye Dan Andrews, bye-bye Scummo, bye-bye to all the rest of them. We won't need them anymore, right? We can run the country ourselves. And I wouldn't have built this if I didn't think the Australian people weren't smart enough, weren't intelligent, and pure-hearted enough to actually do this. We can all do this together, but we can't, not just one of us will fall on our face. All of us together are strong. Okay.
Just on that note, everyone that's in Victoria, New South Wales, the other states that are now getting mandates put on them, please hold the line. Please be strong. Know that you've got all of us. Start a discussion in the QMS discussion groups. We've all got you back. We're all going through it ourselves. And thanks everyone for coming tonight. Please bring more people. Obviously get the word out there. And thanks, Matt, for sharing that flyer. I've saved it. So if anyone else wants it and can't find it in the chat, send me a message. I'll send it through to you.
And if anyone wants a mandate, we can always start a single site on the QMS. Little finishing joke. Thanks, guys. Love you heaps. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you for coming. And really, thank you for supporting all of this. And please bring everyone you can. Love you all. Thanks.